Have you ever felt your body acting differently and wondered if it was a silent warning that the end might be closer than it seems? It wasn't pain, not even a fever. It was a strange kind of tiredness, a change in appetite, a silence within your own body. These signs aren't always clear. Sometimes they're slow, subtle, easy to ignore, as if they're just part of aging. But ignoring them can be a mistake. We're not just talking about statistics. These are observations made by doctors, caregivers, and family members who've learned to listen to the body before it stops sending warnings. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 signs that appear months before a real collapse. And if you learn to recognize them, there's still time to act with more presence, more care, more intention. So take this moment, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next videos. Because when we learn to listen to the body, it responds. Over time, the body starts to change in silence, and those changes aren't always noticed right away. They don't show up suddenly. They don't scream. They arrive slowly, like someone gently saying, "I'm becoming different." Often these signs go unnoticed because they're subtle, and for that very reason, they're dangerous to ignore. They are signs that come before bigger imbalances, that show up months before a diagnosis, and that, if recognized in time, can transform care, prevent worsening, or simply offer more comfort, dignity, and peace. Next, you're going to learn about 5 of these silent signs. Each one represents a different kind of warning, not urgent, but important. And it all begins with something as simple as the taste of food. 1. Sudden change in taste or appetite. Have you ever noticed when food starts to lose its flavor? When even that favorite dish tastes bland, or even makes you feel nauseous? Sometimes it happens out of nowhere, and the person says it's just a loss of appetite, but it could be much more than that. Over time, the body starts changing, and one of the first areas to feel that change en masse is the sense of taste, but almost no one gives it importance. The body, however, does, because when taste disappears, it's a sign that something inside is slowing down, becoming less active, more sensitive. And it's not just physical, it's emotional too. For many people, eating is more than nutrition, it's pleasure, it's memory, it's a connection to life. When that fades, the connection to the world begins to fade too. I remember a woman named Donna Alzira. She was 78 years old and loved coffee. Every late afternoon she made hers, strong, with a cloth filter, just the way her mother had taught her. But one day she stopped. She said the taste was strange. The smell made her nauseous. The family thought it was just age-related fussiness, but it wasn't. In the months that followed, she began to refuse other foods as well. She lost weight, became quieter, paler, and only then did they seek help. When the diagnosis came, there was already a case of mild malnutrition and the onset of sarcopenia, muscle mass loss. In other words, it wasn't just the taste that was fading. It was the body signaling that something was failing. This kind of sign is easy to ignore, but it carries a deep symbolic weight. When flavor disappears, it's as if the body is saying, "I no longer feel the world the way I used to," and that deserves attention. If you've noticed you've lost your taste for food, or if someone close to you has been eating less and less, even without being sick, stop and observe. Don't push, don't demand, but also don't treat it as something small. Offer soft, colorful foods with pleasant textures. Serve in small portions with patience, and if the loss of appetite continues, seek out a doctor who knows how to listen with respect. Because sometimes what looks like just a refusal to eat is the body asking for care. It's the body giving a warning in the quietest way it can. 2. Constant fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. Have you ever felt a tiredness that doesn't go away? Even after a good night's sleep, your body still feels heavy, no energy, no strength, as if even getting out of bed takes more than you have to give. This kind of fatigue is different. It doesn't come from a busy day or a bad night's sleep. It's a deeper exhaustion, quieter and often ignored. When the body starts showing this kind of tiredness, it could be a sign that something inside is no longer working as it used to. And the most dangerous part is that it doesn't hurt. It just weighs on you. And because it doesn't hurt, many people let it slide. In old age, metabolism slows down. The heart pumps with less force, the lungs lose elasticity, and the oxygenation of the cells, including the brain, becomes compromised. The result? The The body can't recover the way it used to, so it starts prioritizing basic functions, saving energy to survive, instead of wasting it trying to keep up the same pace as before. It's the body shifting into silent energy-saving mode, and that affects everything. Energy levels drop, concentration weakens, motivation disappears, and the joy of doing even simple things, like cooking, walking, or even talking, fades. I remember Mr. Agenor, an active man, widowed for many years, who never liked sitting still. Everyone in the neighborhood knew him for his energy. But suddenly, he started skipping domino games with his friends. He stopped tending to his plants. He'd say, "Not today, I'm feeling kind of weak." His daughter thought it was just tiredness, but time went by and he only got worse. He slept more and woke up more tired. It seemed like his body was slowly shutting down. He went to the doctor, and there they discovered his heart was starting to fail. There was no pain, no urgency, but his body had been warning him for months. This deep fatigue is a serious sign. And the worst mistake is thinking it's laziness or just old age. The body doesn't lie. When it takes your energy, it's because it's trying to preserve what's still left. So if you feel this kind of tiredness or notice it in a family member, don't ignore it. Watch for signs like shortness of breath, dizziness, lack of motivation, or loss of interest. Seek medical help, and above all, care with more gentleness. Help in any way you can. A longer bath, a calmer day, a kinder conversation. Because when the body gets tired like this, what it needs most is comfort. If you've experienced this, or know someone who is going through it, drop a 2 in the comments below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Click the button, turn on the notification bell, and help this message reach someone who needs to hear it today. 3. Increased sensitivity to cold touch and light. Have you ever seen an older person feeling cold, even in warm weather, or complaining about a blanket that used to be comfortable, saying now it's itchy or irritating? Maybe you've noticed the person avoiding bright light, getting annoyed by soft sounds, or flinching at the slightest touch, as if their skin had become thinner, more sensitive, more exposed. These reactions might seem small, but they can be among the first signs that the body is changing on the inside, more deeply than it appears. As we age, blood circulation becomes less efficient. The blood no longer warms the extremities like it used to. The skin loses its protective fat, and the nerves, the ones that transmit sensation, become more reactive, more vulnerable. The result is a body that feels too much, too cold, too hot, too much touch, and all of that creates discomfort, sometimes even distress. But because it's not pain, many people ignore it, or worse, call it being overly sensitive. But it's not being dramatic. It's the body trying to protect itself from an environment that, to it, has become harsh. Mrs. Cecilia, 79 years old, had always taken pride in her appearance. She had her shawls, her perfumes, her favorite sheets. But in recent months, she began sleeping poorly. She complained that the morning light bothered her, that the sheets itched, that bathing was uncomfortable, and that even her granddaughter's hug made her flinch. The family thought she was exaggerating, but soon she began avoiding visitors. She closed the curtains, stopped going out, and became increasingly quiet. When they looked into it, they discovered the early stages of sensory neuropathy, linked to poor circulation and vitamin deficiency. Nothing irreversible, but the body had been signaling it for a long time. This kind of extreme sensitivity is a sign, a request from the body for gentler environments, for slower routines, for less stimulation and more care. It's as if the body was saying, "I'm still here, but I need less noise, less pressure, less touch." And listening to that is essential. If you're caring for someone going through this, or if you feel it in your own body, there are ways to help. Adjust the temperature in the room, avoid rough or synthetic fabrics, use softer lighting, and never force touch. Ask, "Is this comfortable for you?" Small gestures like these bring relief, and more than that, they show respect. Respect for a body that is still alive, but needs to be treated more gently. 4. Decreased interest in conversation. There are signs that don't show up as pain or discomfort. They appear more subtly. A silence that sets in, an absence that slowly grows. The person stops talking, gradually distances themselves from activities that once mattered, stops taking small steps to maintain their appearance, stops keeping schedules, commitments, simple routines. Little by little, it seems like they are disconnecting from the outside world. This change isn't always related to sadness. Many times it's the body signaling that vital energy is being conserved. Every gesture, every effort starts to feel heavier, and what used to be part of the routine now feels distant, irrelevant. The body, in its more advanced stages of tiredness, starts to choose what's still worth holding on to. There's no longer enough energy to maintain the full functioning of the day, so the body prioritizes the basics, and the mind follows that rhythm. Mrs. Lydia, for example, always liked being well-dressed. Even to stay home, she would do her hair, put on a light perfume, change her earrings to match her outfit of the day. But over time, she began to let that go. She started wearing the same clothes repeatedly, stopped doing her nails, spent more time sitting quietly. Her daughter noticed that her speech also became more spaced out, and that her answers were getting shorter, with long pauses. But Mrs. Lydia didn't complain. She just said she didn't feel like doing those things anymore. There was no pain, no visible sadness, but there was withdrawal, a slow surrender, as if her body and soul had agreed that it was time to do less. This behavior is common in elderly people who are entering a phase of deep slowing down. The body begins to prepare, gently, for a new stage. It's not giving up, it's conservation, it's retreat. Instead of trying to pull that person back into their previous routine, it's important to respect their timing. Offer company beside them, in silence, when needed. Make it easier to keep up with what's still possible, but don't force a return to what no longer fits. When someone starts letting go of small daily rituals, it doesn't mean they're giving up on life. It might just be a new way of living it, with fewer demands, with more inwardness. Being present at this time is more valuable than trying to change the rhythm of someone who is gradually saying goodbye to the world as it once was. 5. Changes in breathing, irregular rhythm, sighs, or strange pauses. Breathing has always been there. Silent, automatic, present. We hardly ever think about it until it begins to change. For some people, this happens slowly. The air comes in shorter, lighter, or it begins to leave with subtle effort. Sometimes there's an unexpected sigh, a pause between sentences, a feeling that there's less breath than there used to be. These changes often go unnoticed at first, but they are important signs that the body is reorganizing itself internally. When the heart loses strength or the lungs lose elasticity, breathing is one of the first functions to adjust. The body starts saving energy even there. It breathes less deeply, speaks less, avoids long conversations, tries to keep everything minimal, even the rhythm of the air. This slowing down doesn't hurt. It's subtle, but it speaks. It speaks of a body that is getting tired. It speaks of a system that can no longer sustain the same rhythm as before. Mr. Adalberto started like that. He was always calm, but he enjoyed long conversations with his grandchildren. Over time, the family noticed that he spoke less. He responded slowly, and between one sentence and another, he took small pauses to breathe. At first, it just seemed like signs of aging, but the episodes became more frequent. During sleep, his breathing also changed, shorter, more irregular. When he was evaluated, it was discovered that he had a moderate case of heart failure. The heart was no longer able to oxygenate the body as efficiently, and breathing silently had been trying to compensate for that effort. This kind of pattern is common at the end of life, or during periods of deep internal exhaustion. Breathing can even become irregular during sleep, slower, then faster, then a pause, and then it starts again. It's the body trying to maintain balance with what it still has available. This pattern is not necessarily painful, but it is a warning, a request for calm environments, less effort, more pauses, and care that respects the new rhythm of the body. In these phases, breathing is work enough, and every breath becomes precious. Recognizing this change is an act of kindness. It's accepting that the body is asking for calm, and that the most valuable presence in that moment is just being there, by their side, without rushing, without noise, without pressure, only with the silent respect that every body deserves when it begins to slow down. The body's signals aren't always obvious. Often, they arrive gradually, without making a sound, without asking permission. They are subtle changes, in hunger, in energy, in the skin, in breathing, in the way someone dresses, or in the silence that falls between conversations. These signs don't show up on tests. They show up in daily life, in a more attentive look, in everyday care, in the kind of listening that goes beyond words. The body has its own way of speaking, and when it starts to change, it's not always because it's sick. Sometimes it's just tired, or entering a new phase, a phase that calls for less effort and more presence. Recognizing these signs is not a sign of weakness. It's an act of love, of wisdom, of respect for what is still alive, but needs to be cared for at a different pace. Each silent symptom is an opportunity to adjust your step, to offer comfort, to create a gentler space for someone who is aging, or for yourself, if that's the case. This video isn't about fear, it's about clarity. It's about looking at the body with compassion and realizing that even its silence has something to say. If you've made it this far, take this with you. The body never stops trying to warn us. It's up to us to learn to listen calmly and to care while there's still time.